What's up, Kings fans? We're back in the film room, this time doing my Keon Ellis analysis for the 2025 season, and no King I think had more obstacles put in the way this past year than Keon. It seemed like everything was going against him for a while. Like a ton of Kings fans, I thought it was clear Keon should have been the starter since day one, and not only did that not happen, he found himself getting DNPs as early as the second game of the season. But he made the most of practically every opportunity that he got on the court, and sure enough, by the end of the season, he was the full-time starter. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the Keon Ellis film, and once again show why I've been such a huge fan of his game since day one. Keon truly has some of the best defensive instincts I've ever seen. He's even a step ahead of the offense in terms of how he reads and processes the game. The amount of possessions he's able to disrupt, actions and moves he detects and telegraphs, there just aren't many people I've seen with this kind of ability. When offensive players have their back turned to Keon, you'll see him just fly in from their blind side the moment that he sees an opening and take the ball away. Here you can see just how quickly his processing speed is. He's all over these staggered screens here with his back turned to the ball, switches out to the player coming off those picks, and when he turns his head and sees Filipowski driving, he immediately makes a break on the ball and strips it free. 1 second he's not even facing the play, the next second he's taking it the other way, just unbelievable stuff. And how about here where he's taking away a cutter and then just anticipates that signature Jaren Jackson spin back to his right, rips the ball away, not just creating a turnover, but generating an easy 2 points for Sacramento. He's seemingly always lurking behind and reading the offensive player's eyes. Some of the breaks that he's able to make on the ball are just nuts. And we'll continue to talk about his reflexes and hands. He has so many tools that make him an absolutely absurd defensive playmaker in just about all aspects. When Keon's on the ball and gets hit by a screen, he can anticipate those slips or quick passes to the roller, getting his hand in those passing lanes that you typically don't even think twice about as an offensive player. This is one of the most ridiculous plays you'll see, where Jordan Clarkson is ghosting this ball screen on Keon, and with the Kings switching this, Keon is forced to redirect his momentum, but not only is Clarkson ghosting this, he's coming off a subsequent flare screen. Honestly, great action from Utah, but Keon manages to just shoot around this, closes all that space, and erases the shot altogether. I mean, this shouldn't even be possible. I love how Keon just flies around defensively, especially off script or when the defense is broken down. This is where he thrives. Think akin to an elite safety in football, where you just kind of let them roam freely because their instincts are so special. The Kings hedge here, and Houston gets the ball to Şengün on the short roll, so the Rockets have the numbers advantage playing 4-on-3. Watch how Keon sinks down, makes Şengün think for a second playing that cat and mouse game, and he's breaking up that pass to Jabari Smith. Even playing as aggressive and wild as he does, Keon still plays with a level of discipline and understands priorities defensively. Here hedging out and buying time for Sabonis to recover back to Jokic, then returning back to Jamal Murray, and of course stripping the ball free from behind. Keon rarely misses assignments defensively. He plays two players on the weak side about as well as anybody, closing out on these X-outs to take away skip passes, or flying in on these contests to preserve open looks. He never gives up on plays either from a team perspective. The instances where he's back cut or beat on the ball, forcing help to step up, he doesn't miss a beat in pulling off to the corner or wherever he needs to be to take away that next option. Occasionally you'll have possessions like these where the offense has the advantage, and Keon takes away option after option to keep the Kings alive. Here Ant hits a tough three, so it doesn't really matter, but the effort level from Keon is just 100 at all times. Keon thrives playing in the gaps off ball, taking away passing lanes and windows. He's usually stationed either pretty deep in the gaps or with his back turned to his man, trying to bait players into making those kick-out passes that he can intercept. He manufactures an absurd amount of deflections and steals, especially from these positions, which may be where he's most impactful as a defender. You can see when he's playing the weak side, his head is turned to the ball with his back turned to his man, but he doesn't lose track of where his man is. It's natural for offensive players to look for kickouts when their drives go nowhere, and he's waiting for you to fall into this trap. Here he's communicating and instructing his teammates as Paul George is driving, but make no mistake, he's still ready to jump that passing lane and take it the other way. Keon will really over-exaggerate that gap help, especially when he's one pass away. He's constantly jumping and stunning at the ball handler, really discouraging drives in his direction against players who follow their scouting report. And he does this in part because of his ability to recover. His reaction time is extremely quick, and he'll close out back to his man in a split second. He specializes in that ability to bait you and trick you into doing what he wants you to do. He plays that cat and mouse game better than anyone. In these clips playing from the weak side, you see him stunning at the tags of the roller, trying to entice the ball handler to making that kick-out pass instead. Right here he intercepts his laser that Fox is trying to whip cross court, and Keon turns that into a pick six. This time he's doing it against the best player on the planet, zoned up on the weak side against Jokic, taking away two players, just jumping back and forth waiting for Jokic to test him. And not only does he pick it off here, again he's creating easy points for the offense, and we see this time and time again. Keon has these lightning quick reflexes that are 100% unteachable. He just reacts so quick and can get his hands on damn near any ball that's thrown near him. Even on these bullets, players try to fire by him in close proximity where it looks like there's no way he'll be able to react in time. He just has an incredible feel for the game. He's focused on the ball here with his back turned to his man, but somehow he's able to feel Holiday cut behind him and anticipates Tatum looking for it the entire time. It's impossible to throw passes in Keon's direction and feel safe because he'll make these types of plays without even having sight of the ball or his man. It's also unwise to drive in Keon's direction. His active hands show up in the gaps just as much as anywhere else. Not only is he intercepting and picking off passing windows, he's always looking to poke the ball free on these strips, and he just has a knack for generating turnovers. I really appreciate his hustle and effort in transition as well, especially when he's behind plays. He's always sprinting down the court, peeling off the shooters, trying to anticipate where it looks like the offense has an advantage and get there ahead of time. This is another one of those freaky plays where it's like only Keon could do something like this. He's picking up the ball in transition and he's anticipating a hit ahead pass to Collins here. Sexton fakes that, explodes, but watch how Keon is able to regain his balance and momentum, turning his jump into a spin, one more step and he's back in stride, then just decides to go for a signature poke from behind at the ball, and if that wasn't enough, he finishes the play with a putback dunk. I mentioned it in my last video on Keegan, how Keegan was one of the lone bright spots of the team defensively in general, but especially with his closeouts and contests. And Keon was probably the only other player on the team who consistently gave elite effort on closeouts and got effective contests on shots. His closing speed is incredible, and he's really looking to disrupt shots, even sometimes getting a hand on the ball with how fierce he's closing out. The only downside here was that sometimes he was too aggressive and he had a habit of fouling shooters, and obviously you like him to clean this up, but I'm more willing to understand mistakes if you're making them out of full effort. One of Keon's signatures is this reverse spin closeout where players are trained to attack the front foot of the defender's closeout, and Keon has this unique trait where he'll use that front foot to plant and spin to regain his momentum, anticipating players attacking, and since he's able to regain his balance so quickly, he's able to cut off drives that would otherwise seem impossible. Here is something similar but on the ball this time, where he takes a bad step anticipating the ball handler coming off this high ball screen, but instead of opening his hips back up, he uses his new positioning to sprint downhill parallel with the ball handler and ends up beating him to the spot. I think Keon provides more value as a team defender, but he's still an absolute hound at the point of attack. He typically draws lead guard assignments. It's either going to be him or Keegan, depending on the matchup, but Keon has the tools to be extremely disruptive on the ball. He has elite lateral quickness with that bulldog mentality, so he's just a constant pest and menace on the defensive end. With his frame and how aggressive and jumpy he plays, he finds himself out of position at times, but he's never out of the picture. He makes up ground so quickly and always puts in 100% effort in his recovery and especially playing from behind. Keon, it feels like, is comfortable with getting beat. Oftentimes on drives he's just waiting for you to show the ball so he can strip it from behind. The offensive player is almost never safe with Keon lurking, and his accuracy on these strips are truly unbelievable and also unteachable. Here that ball screen creates a lot of open space for Shea, and Shea is looking to put Keon in jail, locking him on his backside, but he can't properly locate Keon since Keon never stayed attached. This allows for him to shoot around Shea and poke the ball free as he's trying to snake back middle. He constantly goes for these strips from behind, especially when guarding bigger and stronger players that he feels can overpower him straight up. And he'll turn many of these forced turnovers into leakouts on the other end. The moment he gets a hand on the ball, he'll race full speed down the court on the other end, trying to beat everyone else down the court and get an easy two. However, playing as gamble happy as Keon does, it does have its flaws. You see how he'll kind of just let Harden get downhill here, hoping he can poke the ball away from behind, and when that gamble comes up empty, it's an easy two for the offense. He'll pick up cheap fouls, being a bit too handsy, trying to manufacture turnovers. He's reaching basically any time the offensive player shows the ball, especially on crosses and when he's retreating in transition. Keon will put himself into awkward positions with how jumpy he is out on the perimeter, here jabbing out at the ball, and when the offensive player goes into protect mode, you see Keon retreat back, but with his hips open to the sideline, giving the ball handler an angle to get downhill. He has a tendency to avoid contact with the screener in his pick and roll defense, and he's not always staying attached because he believes so much in his recovery, but this can get him into trouble when players work quick to use that open space, especially stepping into shots when Keon is trying to shoot gaps and go under. And Keon's extremely light and narrow frame gives him a ton of problems against bigger and stronger players. You'll see how there's really just not much he can do in certain matchups without he'll get overpowered. Some teams will even hunt him if they feel like they have someone who can work him in the post, which is what the Magic did with Franz here. And these situations are where you'll really see Keon gamble because he feels that's his only chance in these matchups. Obviously it's great when they work, but when he comes up empty, it's either usually an easy 2 or a foul. Moving over to the offensive side of the ball, Keon has cemented himself as a borderline elite shooter. He's easily been Sacramento's most consistent one. He's a career 43% three-point shooter, he's shot above 40% each season he's been in the league, and he's been about that at every level for the past few years, even if you include G League and Summer League. But this past season was undoubtedly his best, shooting 43% from deep on 4 attempts per game, which was tied for 4th in the NBA among all players who shot at least 200 triples, and Keon took over 300 himself. When he's wide open, he's practically automatic, and he gets most of his shots just playing off of others. But he's much improved at shooting over contest, especially when he gets hot. He had a few heaters this season, and in these games, he's much more than just a catch and shoot, wide open look shooter. He's hitting stuff off the bounce, in traffic, and the Kings would even play through him at points. He actually shot 40% on pull-up threes this season, but that only accounted for 55 of his total attempts. Still incredible efficiency that shows he might have a lot more to offer. I'd like to see the Kings look to develop him as a movement shooter. If he's able to shoot comfortably running off screens and handoffs, that really opens up a ton for the offense, and we would occasionally see flashes of this ability. As a much more established shooter, teams were more persistent about running Keon off the line as the season progressed, and it was nice to see Keon confidently put the ball on the floor in the half court and attack these closeouts, and he really is an effective finisher once he gets to the basket. You'll see most of his attacks in transition with how active he is in forcing turnovers, and I think he actually looks really comfortable running the break. Again, if he can get to the rim, he's a great finisher. Basketball Reference has him down for 83% at the rim, and he finishes in a variety of ways. He's good with either hand, has a great reverse lay package, and is a really underrated athlete. But getting to the rim can be a struggle for him. He's just not a creator in the half court, and for the most part he doesn't try to be. He understands his strengths and weaknesses as well as anybody. He doesn't have the handle, the burst, or the wiggle that you would need to create offense as a small guard in the NBA. I'd like to see him be able to develop a more reliable in-between game, as you have to imagine that scouting report will only continue to emphasize limiting Keon's attempts from behind the arc, and he's not comfortable attacking the rim when there's any resistance at the basket. Becoming more of a threat with his short mid-range or floater game would be huge for him. We've already seen this out of him too. I love this rep coming off an empty side ball screen super tight and creating a 2-on-1 with his defender behind the play. Here he's reading Şengün's drop, knowing that he'll have space for a floater. And even with his limitations as a scorer, there's still some of these self-creating offense chops in there somewhere. You have to wonder if he's been in the lab with DeRozan after seeing him add these step-throughs to his bag late in the season. Keon's really grown as a connector offensively. You'll see this in his passing. He won't necessarily create advantages, but he knows where the advantage or the open man is. You'll see him in some of these clips where he's lifting on the weak side to give himself a window to make these entry passes to the post or on seals. And he's able to make these reads when attacking closeout, so again he's playing off advantages, drawing the help, and finding the open man. He's shown real ability as a driver, here splitting the zone off the catch, and using a Pinoy step to throw off the timing of Naz Reid's help, before dropping this off inside to Keegan from the dunker spot. And he's more than comfortable at making the skip passes when that first read isn't there. If the help comes and the weak side defender sinks in, he's spraying it out and creating open looks on the perimeter. I'd like to see the Kings use Keon as a screener more to utilize some of these offensive abilities. Not only is he a knockdown shooter, but he can play off advantages and makes the correct reads. Here he's setting that step-up screen for Debo and creating a switch, but the attention that DeRozan draws leaves Keon undetected, allowing him to find the open space in the middle, again force that help over and spray it out to the weak side corner. Of course he can always ghost these screens too, again creating a switch, but here drilling a catch and shoot look with his defender not closing out hard enough. It's clear the Kings want to develop Keon's point guard abilities, and he has shown some chops in running an offense, and at least making the right plays, and I love when they give him an opportunity to run pick and rolls and dribble handoffs, even though he's clearly still growing here. Keon was probably the best find of Monty McNair's tenure here in Sacramento, and the kind of player all 30 teams dream about finding as a UDFA. He's the ultimate role player, an elite shooter and lockdown defender who simply just makes the right play and impacts winning. If the Kings want to salvage the situation that they're in at all, Keon will certainly be a huge part of that going forward, as you need players like him to complement your stars. It'll be an interesting offseason for him, as the Kings have the option to decline his team option and make him a restricted free agent if they want to try and lock him up into a longer deal right now without risking potentially losing him in unrestricted free agency next offseason. We'll see what happens. All I'll say is you gotta do whatever you gotta do to keep this man in Sacramento. So thank you all for watching, take care, and I'll see you all next time.